Corne Mulder, we just listened to the State of the Nation, a lot of promises. It seems like we've heard this story before.
That's the problem.
Is that the situation?
That's exactly the problem. If you want a different outcome, you can't have the same recipe year after year. I said before the debate tonight, who's going to address us tonight? Is it going to be the President of the Government of National Unity, somebody with vision and enthusiasm and putting the Government of National Unity in the center? Or are we going to listen to the President of the ANC? This fund is going to be created, these projects are going to be started, these new white papers. And then that is not what people are experiencing on the ground, because year after year people say, well, all these wonderful announcements. What happened to the bullet train? What happened to the smart city?
I forgot about that.
You forgot about those. So year after year, it's the same recipe. And that's not going to assist us. Then obviously the president, because he addresses it from his party's political point of view, made sure that he ties himself to Bella. He made sure he tied himself to the National Health Insurance Bill. He made sure he tied himself by implications to expropriation when he talked about land and all those kind of things. And then when it comes to international relations, the ANC has said from the beginning, international relations are not part basically of the Government of National Unity. That's the exclusive domain of the ANC. That's why it takes those stances, pro-Palestine, against Israel, and all those different approaches. In the end, he says, it's wonderful if we can unite around a common vision. Then he says we need to have a national dialogue to determine the vision. So what are we uniting about? Around at this stage, we welcome the fact, and when he mentioned some of the positive things in the government at the moment, he refers to things done by ministers that are not from the ANC mainly. So we must take note of that. We must take note of that. The visas here and that and the other. But be that as it may, we welcome the idea that the economy should grow. We welcome the idea that we should have job creation. But you will not achieve that once you've broken trust. And I think there's a huge trust deficit in South Africa between the government and the people, never mind the international community and investors. It's one thing to say that we expect huge investments, but you've just signed an expropriation bill.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Who's the better president? Donald Trump or Ramaphosa?
That's a good question. The correct answer would be, for the United States, Donald Trump is obviously the best president. For South Africa, we can negotiate and discuss what what needs to be done. What I like in terms of what President Trump is doing, at least he is doing what he promises to do. He says, I'm going to move the capital in Israel to Jerusalem. And then it happens. Unlike all the previous presidents who promised that and never did that. And those kind of things he's delivering on his promises. We have not had that kind of record with ANC presidents for many, many years.
What do you think of his promise to take over control of Gaza now? I just spoke to Nazir Paulson. He says that's not going to happen in a million years because there's so many people that have recognized Palestinian rights. So that's not going to happen.
If the United States would like to get involved in Gaza with the aim of developing that place and making it something realistic, then I think it makes sense. If the idea is to remove Palestinians on a permanent basis, there will be a huge outcry against that. And I don't even think Israel wants that. Gaza's a reality. It's been a reality since the Bible times. It's part of the reality that exists. But I think Mr. Trump wants to assist in terms of rebuilding that place and to make sure that the billions and billions of dollars that have been pumped into Gaza over many years are used for the right purpose, because it's not being used for the right purpose. Very wealthy leadership there, buying of weapons and creating an infrastructure to defeat Israel instead of looking after your own people.
Controversial question. NHI, Bella Bill, expropriation bill. Did you sell out your voters by joining the Government of National Unity?
No, we did not sell out our voters to join the Government of National Unity, because the fact of the matter is, if the Government of National Unity is doing what it's supposed to do, you need to be around that table where decisions are taken and you can do something for your own people. And as long as that is possible, I would support that we do that. If that is not happening, then obviously we have to reconsider our position. Now, what's happening at the moment is that the president comes along and he says, no, these bills were agreed by Parliament in the previous parliament, and they are just pushing them through. It's a failure. It's a condemnation of the negotiations that took place when the government of national unity were put into place. And with all due respect, I'm seen to be bashing the DA from time to time. But the reality is, the majority, 99% of that negotiations were between the Democratic Alliance and the ANC to the exclusion of other parties.
Oh, wow.
Other parties were brought in right at the end. When that agreement was basically agreed to, parties were asked, do you want to make an input? We did. But it didn't make any difference it was agreement between those two parties.
But it seems like you're just making more of an argument that you shouldn't be part of it.
Well, the fact of the matter is, when we went into that, the president reached out and he said he doesn't want a coalition. I understand that. He wants a government of national unity. But the government of national unity should then be run like a broad coalition where all the views of different parties are listened to and incorporated. And we didn't start off on a good footing at this stage. We will have to see how that develops. Because the ANC, quite clearly, as I've said tonight, seems to be interested in the ANC alone. And the problem is this. If you really want a coalition or a government of national unity, it means that all the parties involved have to compromise and move to the middle to find a new middle ground. If I look at it at the moment, it doesn't look to me like that. It seems that the ANC has come to the determination after the Boksburg conference end of last year somewhere, that maybe if we play our cards right, we can retain and go back to a 50+1 majority in the next election. We really don't need to have this. And it's almost if parties are trying to outwit each other because they believe at the next election they won't need each other. It's bad. It's the wrong thing. Because by doing that, we are not setting an example of what can be achieved if we really have accommodation, really have a coalition that's supposed to work.
I'm just confused. What is the solution to South Africa? Because it seems like we've been doing this now for 30 years. Now we are in this government of national unity. We have now the main partners of the ANC and the DA, and it doesn't seem to be working.
Yes.
So what is the future role? The DA would argue, okay, but eventually everyone's going to vote for us.
No.
But that doesn't seem to be happening.
It's not
So
gonna happen.
what is the solution?
We have to look completely differently at South Africa. South Africa is an artificial conglomerate being put together by colonial power after many, many years ago. We are being told we are all just South Africans, although we are such a diverse population in terms of language, culture, religion and beliefs. And we need a different recipe. And that recipe, given the reality that we are interrelated in terms of interaction and we are in one economy to a large extent, we should start off perhaps with federalism and give recognition to the diversity, because things in KZN are different than things in the Western Cape. And you can take all the provinces as such. So you really need kind of proper federalism, devolution of power, subsidiarity to the lowest level of governance, and empower people and get away from this notion of one strong central entity that governs this commonwealth almost of nations in South Africa on an economic basis. As long as we stick to the same policies of black economic empowerment, we've heard it again tonight, a fund only for black people in the year 2025, stick to affirmative action, we will never get the economy really to grow. We will not get the economy to take off. We will not get proper international investments. You have to look completely differently at all of these things. Then perhaps we can start to get an economy that's growing, people that feel accommodated, people that feel secure, that can cooperate. And in the end, the model, as far as I'm concerned, remains the fruit salad model. People don't mind to be part of the larger whole in terms of the fruit salad, but allow me to remain a banana or a pawpaw within the fruit salad. But if you want to make a smoothie of all of us, I want to get out. I don't want to be part. I don't want to become a smoothie. Recognize who I am. Yeah. And from our perspective, that includes self-determination and all that goes with that.
Yeah. Are you going to challenge Pieter Groenewald?
I don't challenge people. I do what I believe needs to be done in terms of my vision, etc. I don't. We've got our reorganization meeting, which is once in 3 years. That comes up in 2 weeks' time. I've been approached by some colleagues in different provinces to make myself available. Our system is a bit differently. We don't campaign beforehand and have campaigns. We do that on the day itself. And I'm considering my options, and I will take a final decision on the day.
Yeah. Brave. Anything else you want to leave to our viewers?
No, thank you very much. Have a nice evening. We'll talk again.
Thank you, Corne. Thank you so much. I go for you. You like buy smart.
Snazzy, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.